Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I'm going to tell you a scary story. A scary story about love, that's right. Oh, poor Ian. A man who lost his soul without dying. It's a sad case. He lost everything. How did it happen? Did he get mugged? Did he join a cult? No. He got a girlfriend. And let me tell you, the moment he did, he gave up everything. Once he tasted that sweet punani for the very first time, he gave up everything, his values, his friends, even love for his country. Why? Because she told him to. He became a carbon copy of her, politically, socially, emotionally. Once a base guy, some would say, maybe a little conservative, is now embracing the love of communism. Once independent, is now asking permission to think. What you're about to see is not a common love story. Oh no, it's not a love story gone wrong. Absolutely not. It's a mental takedown, a psychological takedown, if you will, of a man who has no idea who he is without a woman telling him who he is. That's Ian. This is what happens when you build a relationship without building a backbone. All right, let's get it started. Well, guys, I'm about to tell you a scary story. And it's not a scary story about ghosts or anything like that. Oh, no. It's a scary story about a man losing his soul while he's still alive. That's right. This is no ordinary love story. You know, my mom used to have a saying that the devil knows a lot, not because he's the devil. He knows a lot because he's been around a long time. Let me tell you, young people, I've been around a long time. And there's very few things that I know in life. But one thing that I do know is that I've seen a lot of relationships over my time. I was single for decades and out there looking at everything. And I've seen cases like this before. When a man loses his soul, I've seen mighty titans go down on their knees for a woman. Now let me tell you this story. And it's not about shadows in the dark or anything like that. It's more tragic. It's the disappearance of a man's soul while he's still alive. Who we're talking about? Idubbbz, of course. Who is Idubbbz? Who was Idubbbz? He was a young man that grew up in a privileged neighborhood, comfortable, safe. I would say now even maybe a little too sheltered, right? He appeared to be confident and all these other things, right? He appeared to be alpha on video. But of course, when he went up with Sam Hyde, we discovered that was not the case. The real Ian started to get exposed. Now let me tell you this. When you have a young man, right, who previously believed in self-reliance, or that's what he exposed, you know, some patriotism, maybe some held conservative principles. He was based back in the day. Despite all his upbringing, he never had a girlfriend. And all of a sudden, and this is what everybody says, right? He didn't even have any serious emotional connections with a woman. And that all changed when ANISA came in the picture. Now, ANISA was everything that Ian wasn't. Confident, dominant, decisive. She walked into his life, and for Ian, it was like the sun had come out for the very first time. Once he hit that punani, oh, it was very different. You know, when a young man has his first sexual experience, it changes his world, right? But if you're grounded, you know, if you have a solid foundation, if you know who you are, you know if your character has been built, it adds to your manhood, right? It's transformational, of course, but when you don't, right? When you don't, it happens. What happens is what happened to Idubbbz here. So the moment they became intimate, Ian just didn't fall in love. He fell into her. Right? This is crazy. He began adopting her habits, her phrases, her beliefs, and not gradually or thoughtfully. It seemed like it happened overnight. Ian stopped being Ian. Gone were his values, political compass. He spun around like a broken weather vane. Now, this young man who once was out there making videos, having fun, being based, who believed things and he believed in like hard work, responsibility, those kind of things. Now all of a sudden he's parroting the virtues of communist lines, socialism, spitting venom to the country he once loved. All right, humans, and before I forget, there's going to be a spicier version of this particular video in the members only coming up, so stay tuned for that. I can't put it on the regular channel because you know what's happened to my channel. It's been shadow banned because of the stuff that I talk about like this, so I'm trying to clean it up. So over there on the member section, I have over 75 videos that you guys can watch that, you know, YouTube doesn't like, but you can watch it under memberships. That I believe that's why they're doing all this crap, so people put it behind a paywall and they make some money. But you know, it is what it is. What am I gonna do? I don't want to get my channel blasted to oblivion. So anyway, guys, I also have their readings of the Substack. You can sign up to my Substack for free. It's free. You can go over there and read it. But if you want to listen to me read them, what I'm going to start doing, and I already put up the first one, is actually reading the Substacks. And all they really are is my scripts, you know, my thoughts before I make a video. So make sure and you go check that out. I'm really bad at doing promos, and I forgot. I always forget, right? I do these things and I don't promote them. So there it is. That's my version of a promo. What's going on? And who was steering the ship? ANISA. Let me tell you, back in the day when he was making the content cop and making us all laugh, remember he made the one on Leafy. Well, he made it on Leafy because ANISA had hit up Leafy. And Leafy was like, no, I'm good. You're just mad. And so came out the Leafy content cop, and I want to say it's out of jealousy now that I reflect on it, right? I really do. But now he's in a relationship with ANISA. She calls the shots. Where they went, who they saw, what they did. ANISA decided what they believed, what causes they supported, what Ian thought, right? It appears this guy no longer has an opinion of his own. He has to check with her. Well, what happened here, guys, it isn't just love, right? It's not just passion or compromise. No, this guy lost his identity, right? This is like full scale, what do they call it? Enmeshment, I believe is what it's called. And this is what happens when a man who never fully formed his own identity, right? Who's not a real man yet, right? Meets someone, specifically a woman, especially if they've never had any intimacy, and he meets that woman and she consumes him, right? At this point, Ian isn't growing. This dude is dissolving, right? He claims that he's doing all this growth with ANISA. No, dude, you're dissolving. You know, and he spent more time in this relationship, and the more time he spends in it, the less recognizable he becomes to people that actually knew him, to his audience, to anybody else. His friends, forgotten, replaced, alienated. I mean, nobody even knows who this guy is anymore. You ever see a man go ghost without breathing? That's Ian right now. You know, I tell you, it's what do they call it? Relational enmeshment. And it's what happens when the boundary between you and me disappears within the couple, right? When one person like Ian has lost his entire sense of self to avoid rocking the boat because she has such a strong personality, she's the alpha male in this relationship, right? And it happens a lot with men who have sex for the first time, and they have it with somebody that had a strong personality, especially when the more dominant partner, in this case ANISA, holds the key to something that this dude has never had: acceptance, intimacy, and approval from a real person, not from an audience, right? That's why Ian got consumed. This dude, even though, you know, he appeared to be mature on video, he was not emotionally equipped to handle the intensity of this first relationship, not especially with this kind of woman. Let me tell you, the one thing that's guaranteed, and I'm a betting man, is that this woman will leave him because she doesn't respect him. You can't respect somebody who's way weaker than you. This dude lacks boundaries, and most importantly, he lacks that internal strength to say, no, this is who I am, right? This is who I am. If you have a partner, you are who you are and they are who they are. You don't ask them to change. They don't ask you to change. You can make compromise in some things, right? But the reason they love you is because you are who you are, not because you do what they say. If you're in that kind of relationship, you better get out. You need some growing to do, kids. Even if you're older. Let me tell you, I see men in their 40s, 50s in these kind of relationships all the time. And they don't want to hear it. They're perfectly happy, the way they are. And let me be clear, guys. Relationships are to help you grow. It's not for you to vanish. When a man, gives away his opinions, his beliefs, his identity to someone else just to feel wanted, guys, that's not love. That's submission. That's codependence, in my humble opinion. And I'm no expert, right? I'm no mental expert. I just been around the block a few times. How many relationships have I had? I don't remember. That's the honest opinion. Do you think I remember? I've been at this since I've been 15, and as far as being in physical relationships, that's when I lost my virginity at 15, and it never stopped after that, right? And you want a relationship that works? You need two whole people. You need two people to embrace each other, that respect each other. Not one person with a voice and the other one just playing, puppet with the other one. She's basically just putting her hand up his butt and moving his mouth. She's like a ventriloquist. Now, his story isn't unique, guys. This happens all the time. And I'm doing this video more to have people think. Maybe not you, but your kids, your young men. You have to teach young men how to be men, and not this feminized version of manhood that's being pushed out there, because that's how you get all these crazy kids that are coming up. It happened to Idubbbz. You can see it out here with all these confused kids saying all kinds of crazy stuff. You have to be who you are. It doesn't matter, regardless of your sexuality, regardless of anything else. You have to know who you are before you get into these relationships, and you have to make sure that you're mature enough to be in a relationship. And your parents, or you as a parent, have to make sure that your young person has the maturity to be engaged in this stuff. It's crazy, man, with the hormones and stuff, but you don't see it at this age, not this old. And this guy has ended up what? With his charity, 34% cut? This is where we're at? Taking 34% from a charity? I'm telling you, this guy lost his manhood, his character, and even his pride. This man has no ego. You know why? Because it's inside ANISA's vagina. All right, humans, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.
New videos every Monday and Sunday. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Gen X Gamer. Remember to like and subscribe. Click that notification bell, and remember, never ever be afraid to be happy. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.